Welcome, everyone, to What the Fiction. I'm Marie-Claire Gould, your host, and with me for this fun deep dive is Missy. Welcome, Missy.
Hello. Hi. I'm so stoked. This is going to be fun.
What the Fiction is our show where we talk about all sorts of different types of media from a fairy tale, mythic, symbolic perspective and figure out why it really works for us and many others. Missy, of course, is my good friend who loves fairy tales. And tell them a little bit about your love of fairy tales, Missy.
Yeah. So I've always really enjoyed fairy tales, just a complete sucker for them from day one. And there came a time where just because I would collect like illustrated children's books of different fairy tales and stuff, where I suddenly was like, some of these are really similar. I wonder why that is. And so I just sort of went down a rabbit hole of comparative mythology and all the other, associated mythological analysis that is available out there, which there are obviously so many lenses to look at it from, and just have really enjoyed getting into why this appeals to me so much and why it appeals to other people and why do these stories and these motifs have such staying power. So really enjoyed that.
And I like to look at story from a comparative mythology perspective that especially ties into the symbolic and mythic motifs that we see within story. And surprise, surprise, the latest release of K-pop Demon Hunters is exactly the sort of thing that Missy and I like to talk about. So
we're going to our jam.
dig into it. We're going to dig into it. Overall, the thesis for this episode and discussion is that K-pop Demon Hunters is not only highly successful because it's fun and a complete story, but also because of the mythic symbolic motifs that enhance the message. This movie, which was only released on Netflix
like from
Sony, from Sony Animation, really achieves a core message of what we talk about when we talk about mythical journeys. And this is, I'm going to use a lot of terminology and we'll try to explain it as we go along, but feel free to reach out in the comments wherever you found this, or reach out to us on Blue Sky and talk more about this if you have any questions, because we certainly do have recommendations on how you can explore this further. The whole point of going on a mythic journey is that as a character, it replicates and it represents what we go through as humans when we face different challenges throughout our lives. And so the whole goal of going on a journey is actually to come back with knowledge, with things that you found, and become a more whole and complete person through that journey. And that's actually what is going on with K-pop Demon Hunters, specifically from the point of view of Rumi, which the entire story is about. It is about Rumi learning to accept herself fully, achieve wholeness, and heal herself from the things that are dark within her. And it is beautifully done. Typically, you and I talk about Star Wars on my other podcast, What the Force. And so there's a lot of thematic similarities between the two, but we'll try to be more generalistic in what we talk about. But darkness, the dark side, you could use that as an equivalency in the storytelling to the marks and the demons.
Yeah. And that's another thing I want to mention briefly is that it's very important to keep in mind that this is not a beat for beat retelling of a specific tale. This is inspired by Korean folklore and mythology, but it is very much adapted for the needs of this story. So I have seen some people, critiquing sort of the flattening of certain cultural motifs, like the approach to demons and, some of the little animal familiars and stuff like that. And while I think that those are valid critiques, again, to concerns about cultural appropriation and what have you, it's just also important to keep in mind that this is only inspired by those things, but it is meant to stand on its own. And many of the aspects of it are intended to be recognizable. Hence, all the demon stuff should be understood similarly to the dark side in Star Wars or any other way that dark aspects are portrayed in any media. This is supposed to be stuff that we understand on an instinctive level. We're like, yes, I know this. Okay, I know what this is about.
Yeah, and it's fairly, it's handled in a lot of ways from a psychological perspective through Jungian psychology. There was a poet named Robert Bly that talks about the Jungian shadow that I absolutely love. And he described it as, our baggage or our garbage bag that we drag behind us that becomes smelly and apparent and noisy and loud, and we can't ignore it eventually. The marks themselves, which are darker on the skin, represent this Jungian shadow concept, which is everything that we have done that is dark, that we are ashamed of, that we hide away, and that we don't want to face. These unwanted parts of ourselves that we have come from a place of leaning into greed or desire, or even, from a place of hate or strong emotions, and we've done something bad that we don't want to face.
And I want to mention this just because of the fact that I do think this factors in here. So just briefly, there's a lot of people currently today sort of unlearning shame that was projected upon them as children and coming to discover that the things that they were shamed for are not actually bad at all.
Yes.
So, obviously a great example is, people who are LGBTQ community, many people were made to feel like that was something bad that they did. Something wrong with them. And it's actually, no, there's nothing wrong with you and you don't need to feel bad about that. So unlearning shame, even if it's not actually a result of, something that genuinely should create guilt, if it's just something where someone else projected their negative feelings about it onto you.
You carry it with you.
Right. You carry it with you. It's also part of your shadow. So I think that's important here.
It's also important to know that you have family shadow. Shadow is like the secrets that your family holds, or that fight that you had that nobody ever talks about. You have, or again, that projected shadow onto you saying that you were never good enough or whatever, right? All of that. This is such an important thing. And then you also have community and cultural and countrywide shadows, darkness that you don't want to admit.
Exactly. And that's also why I love that they could have used so many terms when referring to the demon patterns on the skin, right? They could have called them markings, or the fact that they keep referring to them as patterns, and especially in the lyrics of the songs, to me, that feels very deliberate, because we also talk about patterns in families and in cultures, and how a lot of times we try to break negative patterns in our cycles and family history. And like you said, if you have a national history with a negative pattern and you're trying to break that cycle. So I like that they use that term, because to me, that's what it's talking about. And that's what Rumi is talking about at several points in this movie is, on the one hand, I'm accepting these patterns, and on the other hand, I'm breaking patterns. And I loved that she, that's very much the message of the story.
Absolutely. So it all starts out with this story of why the demon hunters exist and how long throughout history that they have existed, holding back basically this darkness underneath the surface. And to me, this is really perfect, because symbolically, the darkness only exists kind of in our minds and in our subconscious underneath the surface. And the Hanmun is used to keep things down for a generation. Basically, ignoring it.
Yeah. Yeah.
For a generation.
They swept it under the rug, like almost literally.
Yeah, exactly. It's used basically to lock the darkness away until it's, no matter what, it's reborn a next generation. And the three warriors, the three hunters are reborn, or they are found again, and they take on this or take on this sacred mantle to do it all again, which is, again, generations repeating the same story over and over and over and again.
Yeah. Hide it, cover it up. Like that's kind of their whole shtick. And so that's how you know that this demon world and the demons in it are this shadow of all of our heroines, basically.
Exactly. We have Guima, who is the demon king, and he is this giant fiery mouth with like fiery teeth.
Yes.
And to me, this absolutely represents the theme of consumption and like how much you are eaten from the inside because of the darkness within. And so he represents the very concept of the shadow. And one of the most important things to understand about darkness and this idea, especially with how it's played out in this story, but also in our own psychology, is you can't exist without a shadow.
Yeah.
Like, you think about it, you exist, there's light, there will always be darkness. You have to figure out a way to exist with both of those things. In fact, the start of the movie starts with the first song, which is this is how it's done.
Yes.
And the end line actually talks about when the darkness meets the light. And then the last song of the movie, during like the actual like fight scenes, it actually brings that back and says, when the light meets the dark.
Yep.
To actually just show you this is a cycle. This is us doing what we need to do to integrate the shadows into ourselves. And that's going to be a really important aspect when we get like later on in the movie.
So another thing that appears in this movie is that because you have Rumi and all the other characters denying their shadow, what that is actually psychic dismemberment. It is they're separating from a part of themselves. They're trying to cut it off. So literally, she wants the patterns to go away. She wants them off of her. She doesn't want them anymore. And so she thinks she can separate that from herself. And so what I really love about that is that actually made it into the text of the film, which I thought was incredibly cool. So there's the sort of quack doctor they meet early on.
Yeah.
Voiced by Daniel Day Kim, which I just was so excited about. He was so funny. And he's got this line where he's like, well, in order to heal a part, we must understand the whole. Focus is good, but focusing on one part leads to ignoring other parts, making you separated, isolated, emotionally closed off. And so I love that, again, this is a kid's movie. And so they are very deliberate about making sure that this theme is being repeated constantly in the text, in the songs, in the imagery. It is very, very present. You can't miss it. It's very easy to understand for the audience. And to me, that's a real strength of the film, that it communicates that so clearly.
Absolutely. There's another way that they're discussing wholeness, and this talks into how mythic stories heal us as humans. So since ancient times, we have understood that storytelling is actually healing. It's basically psychology, right? Why I talk about Carl Jung, the psychologist, with regards to mythic storytelling as well as storytelling in general, is because we as humans like to heal ourselves through art. It's just a truism. And so another aspect of wholeness is the community, is the friendship, is the family. And so we have three aspects of the feminine, the three girls being 3 ties back to the tri-goddess motif, which is that there's always an aspect of 3 feminine when you are talking about a singular feminine person.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is how it is represented in the Huntrix group themselves, in that there is, you know, sort of like the powerful one, the goofy one, and then the mean one. And we see this in so much storytelling. It's bizarre, but it is a mythic motif, like Powerpuff Girls.
It's the Powerpuff Girls. It is. Thank you. Yes.
And it's the idea is that the feminine has different faces, and yet it is all 3 of them. And so this will also tie back to an overall feeling that you must heal yourself, your other parts of you, and the connected others, and then you can heal the world. And the story tends to go in 3s. And so that's why it's really important to view this story primarily from a lens that this is about Rumi.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. The other characters really are parts of her story and parts of her psyche. So the other members of Huntrix, to your point, they are the other aspects of her as the feminine, as the goddess. Jinu is her masculine aspect, and we could go on. You have Celine there, which is, you know, her sort of dark
mother.
Dark mother aspect. So, you know, we'll get into all of that, but it is important to understand that this story is meant to be understood as entirely through her perspective and happening in her psyche. This is basically a psychological story about Rumi. And to go back to the comments the doctor made, he repeats what he said before about how, as I said, to treat the part, we must understand the whole. And as he says it a second time, he gestures to all 3 of them. So when he says the whole, he actually means the 3 of them together. They are the whole.
Exactly. Yeah. We can also look at this story from the lens of a heroine's journey. A heroine's journey is the heroine's journey sort of motif and structure was built as a way to describe to Maureen Murdoch's patients framework for them to understand their own experiences as they were in therapy with her, when the hero's journey from a symbolic perspective didn't work for feminine patients. And so the story itself does follow that. And so when we start out, we see the hunters themselves in the midst of their path and already kind of far along. They're in the midst of tests and trials, and they're getting a lot of success in what they've got going on. We've never had to see them really learn how to do what they were going to do. They're very competent from the get-go, already very skilled hunters. The challenge comes in the song Golden. So they succeed in their big concert tour. They're about to go on to their break, when really it's not a break.
Couch, and then
couch. And then Rumi's like, no, it's time to release Golden, because she's feeling the pressure of her hiding her patterns, which is, of course, again, that shadow aspect. And this is where Golden represents her I want song. Right? This is the world she imagines, she thinks she deserves. And so it is the thing that, like, she is working towards as they get there. But again, they're waylaid by her voice not working correctly, them going to go see the doctor. Like, things are just like out of sync and not working correctly for her. And so lo and behold, a new challenger has appeared in the form of Jinu and the demon boy band.
Yes.
I love them so much.
I love them. And like, I know that this is all the Mythic conversation, but we are going to do a super short detour to talk about their introduction. Because it is just the most aggressively K-drama scene. Like, it is so fun and just a sheer delight. And like, clearly the animators just went all out.
I think Maggie in an interview mentioned that she was very much inspired for their appearance and what they look like by BTS and specifically Dynamite, which came out and really took so much of the world by storm. Like it was everywhere for a summer. And it feels like BTS to me when they showed up. Yeah. Like one of their fun songs.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's so recognizable, I think. No matter how deep or not that you are into sort of K-pop fandom or or K-drama fandom, like, I feel like either one, you're gonna recognize this. And so I love that. I love that they just sort of, you know, all the slow-mo is so funny. And just, you know, if anyone asks me, hey, what does femgaze mean? I'm gonna be like, watch this scene. Because
like even just their intro in the alleyway.
Yeah,
like
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So funny. Like I said, it's all slow-mo. It's so from their perspective. I get such a kick out of Mira and Zoe's reactions. Like, I love all of the silly animation of their eyes and everything with the like popcorn. It's just like it's so funny. And then I also really love Ruby being like, you guys are gross. And then like Jinu shows up and like the music changes and everything. It's so, and then the way that like, he's like, she thinks he's reaching for her hand and then he like brushes off his shoulder and he's like, watch yourself. And it's just like, it's so great. And this is just like the most fun thing to watch. And that's the other reason why this is really, really successful is because it's all, you know, these deep familiar stories that we recognize on this instinctive level because it's mythology. And it's also like, hey, guess what else you recognize? Like pop culture. Here you go.
Yeah. It
really
is
fun.
And for you and I, like, we've watched our fair share of K-dramas. I'm a BTS fan, but I've also listened to a bunch of other K-pop groups. You know, as soon as we heard Hyo Soup, I'm pronouncing that right. I'm sure he's actually Canadian. I was super happy that he's in this. But we know him from Business Proposal, which was also on Netflix. And Netflix understands the power of those feminine gaze stories and has, I would say, quadrupled down on especially loaning or buying properties to put on their service from both C-dramas, J-dramas, K-dramas. Like they'll create their own and then they will also just invest in ones that are coming out that are in the popular culture at the time.
Exactly. So there are ones that are like Netflix exclusives, but then there are also, they just are like, oh, that's popular. Cool. We're going to put it on Netflix. And it's like, great. Awesome. Now you have access to it all the time. So it's really good. And what's cool is that you get to see that come full circle because, so our friend, Slimo, on Blue Sky and, you know, all the places, has been sharing a lot of behind the scenes stuff as it comes out. And one of the things that was shared today was some background about some of the scenes between Jinu and Rumi, which are based directly on famous scenes from K-dramas, including a number of them that are Netflix exclusives. And so it's like almost feels
we've
like
ourselves talked about Crash Landing on You on this channel.
Go listen to our Crash Landing on You episodes. They're really fun. But like, and then obviously to your point, Business Proposal, I really love. It was, for me, it was kind of a sleeper hit. I remember like it started and I was like, it's fine. And then it just got better and better and better. And now I'm just like, that's one I'll definitely go back, especially now with this movie. I'm like, oh, I got to go back and watch Business Proposal again. And I think didn't they like make Business Proposal into like a Western movie, I think, recently? I feel like I saw it.
Did they?
They did. They remade it because I saw it the other day. I
Oh,
was like, oh, it's based on the K-drama hit. And I was,
I
anyway.
I didn't hear about that, but that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Isn't that cool? So I have
Yeah.
no idea if it's any good, but that won't stop me from watching it. Anyway, point being with all of this is that, as we said before, it has a largely Korean cast and crew.
Hmm.
And it is in many cases not just inspired by Korean culture, including both historical and pop culture, but also just done with so much love and
Hmm.
just so much very genuine enjoyment of all these things and this desire to share and to have us point to certain things in the movie and go, I recognize that. Like you're supposed to go, I know what that's from. So like there's a scene
Yes.
later where he's like, oh, you invited me on this date. And she's like, it's not a date. It's just a business meeting. And I
Yeah.
am like
You
pointing at my screen like Leo, like, business proposal.
Yeah,
So,
I absolutely love this, and the fact that this show is a musical works on so many levels.
yes.
This this movie is a musical. Not just because it's actually quite common in Korean, Japanese, Chinese dramas, which all influence each other. Like they'll remake the same story in different cultures and all of that. But they'll also sometimes have these intensive musical tracks that are sort of run like musicals because they have full singing throughout important moments that you can hear the words of the characters and their feelings as part of the music. And oftentimes, the actors that are playing the characters are also the people that are singing the songs
Yep.
in those soundtracks. This is a little bit different than that. They got different people to sing the songs, but the musical aspect of it just heightens it to
Right.
those moments. So you would have a romantic moment just like what is happening in K-pop Demon Hunter when they finally are able to kind of get to an epiphany moment between Rumi and Jinu. And yeah, it would break out in a song just like that, but
Yeah.
usually they weren't singing it. But
Yeah.
you would hear the song as they were having these romantic moments. So
Yeah.
it works on like this massive amount of levels for those of us that pick on this, but also it makes the messaging that much more clear because we
Yes.
not only hear it in the text of what is happening on screen. By text, I mean the actual people saying the words, but also what is happening in the plot. But we see it in the symbolism, which is what we're digging into. And then we also hear it in the music reflected by the characters having these emotional moments that is being expressed through song.
Yeah, and the lyrics are so smart because they work so well in terms of they work in context in the movie where you're like, okay, as the characters understand this song when they're singing it, it makes sense. But then a lot of times they also have double meanings. So, of course, we get to when you get to Takedown, it's the intent is to take down the Saja boys, but in actuality, of course, they're taking down themselves, and specifically Rumi, like taking down herself.
Yeah.
And so that's what's actually happening there, even though that's not the intent. And similarly, I saw somebody today point out that the lyrics to Soda Pop are all about how I'm going to consume you, I'm going to drink you. And it's all about the Saja boys want to like steal the fans, they want to steal the souls from the fans.
Yeah.
They want to consume the souls of the fans. So that's literally what that's about.
It's repeating the motif
Right.
and the symbolism that we get with the mouths,
Yes.
like large teethy mouths, fire, all represent consumption. And if you are in a consumptive cycle symbolically, it means that you cannot be whole and renewed and rejuvenated.
Yeah, well,
through
and
healing.
again, they're so deliberate and so thorough about it. It even shows up in the little things, like even them like drinking hot sauce for a TV
Yeah, they're
show, like a
always
game show.
consuming.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
consuming and it's burning and
Yeah.
it's like fire, it's burning them. And so it's so like all of that stuff is there. Like you could dig for ages
Gino
and just find
drank
layers.
her tonic
Yes,
in Soda Pop.
exactly. Yeah, he had her tonic. And I love it too because also like the whole issue is supposed to be that the problem with her voice is that she's lying, and the reason her voice isn't working is because she's lying. Because then, of course, later it's this is my voice without the lies, right? And so that's the whole issue. So the fact that like he took it and he drank it, it's like I have your lies, I know your lies. I'm like I'm familiar with I'm familiar with your game.
And
like,
and he even goes out to like sort of enhance the lies because
he participates in it.
Yeah, he's willing to shield her literally by tying his like scarf or handkerchief around her.
Are we talking about the bathhouse now, Marie Claire? Because I have so much about the bathhouse.
Yeah, because they leave the scene with Soda Pop, right? And they go to the bathhouse.
Oh my God.
I'm sort of just like walking the movie a little bit.
Yeah, listen, we're gonna jump around. Yeah, it's fine.
They go to the bathhouse and they're like, we're gonna chase after them.
Yep.
And they go in the bathhouse and it's a men's bathhouse, but Zoe is very excited either way.
Yes, it's so funny. Oh my God. So it's on the one hand, it's so entertaining and it truly is. But on the other hand, to get back to like all this mythic stuff, discovering the lover at the bath is a big thing in mythology. So what you tend to have is usually it's the discovery of the animal bride. And so normally she would have two forms or her true form might be obscured by the animal skin or sometimes clothing or whatever. And so normally the hero discovers her at the bath, and discovering her in a state of undress or without her animal skin or, in the intimate act of bathing is like, oh, I see who she truly is. And now I capture her, I own her. And so a lot of times the capture is done by putting his own clothes onto her. And that is what happens in this scene. Her true identity, the fact that she's part demon, is discovered by Jinu in the bathhouse. And then he covers up her true form with this little like towel that he ties around her. And that is him claiming her for himself and for his world. That you are like me, I am claiming you. And so that's what happened here. But you can also switch it around. She discovers him in the bathhouse because up to this point, she was ready to kill him. And when he does this to help her hide her identity, she realizes that there's more to him than meets the eye. And so she has now discovered and especially since it's a men's bathhouse, she has discovered the masculine lover at the bath. And something that we don't need to go into now, but if you want to link to one of my essays I've written on Tumblr recently, I talk about this, about how this is starting to appear more and more in our stories of discovering the masculine at the bath. The wild masculine of the bath, to be specific. So examples recently, of course, are Kaimir in The Acolyte. Osha discovers him bathing in a pool. And, there's this whole moment they have together that's very romantically charged. And there's a similar scene in My Lady Jane, where Jane discovers her husband Guilford at the bath, and then he transforms into his horse form, and she realizes his true self. And so this is something that is showing up more and more in media. And so I was very excited to see it here, even though, again, it's just a bathhouse. So, but there's always more going on.
Absolutely. It's sort of like, well, they had that hot sauce moment. They went to the bathhouse. And then he because he's discovered that she has patterns, he reaches out to her with our favorite characters, our good boys, the Derpy Tiger and Sussy Magpie.
Yes! I love them so much. They're the best.
Yeah, tigers themselves, they have a lot going on in Korean mythology. A lot of people and folklore. The peninsula of Korea itself
Mm-hmm.
has long been thought to look like a tiger,
Mm-hmm.
the derpy one specifically. And
Oh my God.
actually, what I love, and this it's absolutely um, uh, representative in these two characters, is the patterns look to me like tiger stripes.
Yeah. Yes. The demon patterns look like tiger stripes. I love that too. It's really
Mm-hmm.
great. I also, we'll get more into some of the specific mythology and stuff that we think they're playing on here, but I also want to mention just in general that this combination, the choice to have the tiger and the magpie together, is a reference to Jakodo, which is a Korean folk art motif, which always features a tiger and a
Mm-hmm.
magpie. And that typically the tiger is I have a source that says it's intentionally given a ridiculous and stupid appearance, and that this was, historically this was sort of a critique of the ruling class or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, this pairing is very specific in terms of having them be together, and I'm sure you want to talk a little bit about how they function as psychopomps.
Yeah, so they in mythology, they are able to go through or live long or represent sort of the wild nature, the spiritual realm.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are confronted by a tiger and you're a good person, the tiger will not destroy you. That
Mm-hmm.
is a mythological concept. The birds themselves, because they can fly into the air, always represent a psychopomp, which means that they can go between the worlds. So this world and the next, either heaven or the afterlife. And this tiger, of course, because of how we see it act as a spiritual guide, is one and can actually go anywhere it seems to want to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I love it. And that's really cool that they have that. Also just randomly the whole flower pot thing
Yeah.
is just so hilarious. It's so funny. And it's so well done because it sets you up so well to understand exactly what's happening later when the wastebasket tips over.
Mm-hmm.
And Derby's like, "Ooh." And you're like, "Oh no."
Oh no, the lyrics.
I
No.
know. It's so funny. So like it's just, again, it's such a well done movie, just even in terms of how well it's crafted. Like the comedy really works, and it's just very, very fun. But I love that these two, they're supposed to be a little scary at first, and then she quickly learns that they're not scary at all.
Absolutely.
It's very fun.
Did we
So
want to talk about what Sajja means before we
yes, let's talk about that.
go into it further?
Mhm.
First of all, Sajja, of course, means lion, and so they're the lion boys, which um,
Right.
represents like a royal nature, usually.
Yeah, but also
Lions.
consumption because it has an open mouth.
Yes, because it can consume them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like I'm talking about that, like the symbol that
The
they use.
symbol. Yeah,
Yeah,
their
the
band
logo.
symbol. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like so it's got like an open mouth, so that definitely is like we will consume you. But also the shape of it, the mane, it's five-sided for five boys. And of
Mm.
course, five is sort of like a number associated with evil, just like three is a number associated with like, holiness and perfection. And so
Only in American cultures, like that's really
true.
important to know.
That's true.
Like in American cultures, 5 is associated with more badness, but
Right.
in Asian cultures, 5 is not bad. Like you
Right.
cannot get 6 chicken McNuggets at McDonald's in Japan because that means
Sack 6 is bad.
nothingness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas everything is in 5s. So
Yeah.
like this is where it's like we're understanding this because the storytellers themselves, the creators, are all North American. So we're assuming that it means something because of this.
It's hard to know, but that goes back to what we were saying about how like this story is ultimately it is Korean inspired, and to your point, everyone's North American, but most of them have Korean background in many cases. Like a lot of the cast and crew was Korean American or Canadian or whatever. And so on the one hand, you do have everyone kind of bringing their own associations and knowledge to this.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other hand, it's made largely for a North American audience.
Yeah.
And so, like, the fact that it's made, you know, in English, for example, like, and everything else, every other language is going to be a dub because it is like all of the lip syncing and everything. That's all made for English and everything.
And the songs are primarily in English with some Korean.
A little bit of Korean. Yeah.
But it's Korean in there.
Mostly English. And so, so it's important to keep in mind that, like, the perspective of this is kind of straddling the middle. It's not, obviously it's not Korean made, but it's clearly heavily Korean influenced. And then it also has aspects of more North American culture. So that's where you get into things like, it's hard, and we'll talk about this especially when we get to the end. There are aspects of it where it's hard to know how much it's leaning one way or the other.
Yeah.
But we know it has both.
It has both, yeah. It's very both. The other aspect of Saja, of course, is Jaesong Saja, which is the name for the Grim Reaper, effectively, or the collector of the dead in Korean folklore. And there's a great couple of shows that focus on this if you're really interested in this. I particularly recommend Goblin.
Yeah.
Goblin does a really good job of showing the Grim Reaper concept as a modern day idea. And they're often known to have the wide hats.
Yes.
The gats that the Saja boys have when they're in the underworld, as well as during Idol in the song. And so, of course, this is like the idea that they're bringing about the death of those who listen to them, which is true.
Yeah. So it's literally, you know,
collecting their souls.
Yeah. It's so good. I love it.
It's great. So we were just onto the bathhouse. After that, they met. I did want to call out, like, so we had the message. She decides to follow the tiger, which of course is no, girl, no. This connects to Rumi's name, which I haven't actually seen a lot of people talk a lot about. But of course, to me, whenever I hear Rumi, it ties back to the Persian poet.
The poet.
Which, if you are in certain fandoms, especially those that love enemies to lovers, which this classifies in my opinion.
This is.
There's a very famous Rumi poem, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there's a field, I'll meet you there, where the soul lies down in the grass. The world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even phrase each other don't make sense anymore. This is the concept of alchemical union in a poem. And what is the point of what is happening to Rumi in this story? Well, she meets him in these places that is out beyond both right and wrong, because that's what they represent in her mind. He is wrong, she is right. But it merges together by the time they actually sing free.
Well, and even the way that they typically are meeting on the roofs.
Yep.
And the roofs are like at the border between earth and sky.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So they're meeting at sort of, and this will come up later, they're meeting at sort of a bridge point, if you will.
Yes.
On a bridge. And I've actually seen some of the concept art does have them meeting on a bridge also.
Which is very poignant to Korean folklore and mythology.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that.
Yep. I'm waiting to get into the full story, but like, yes, that will come up again. So put a pin in it.
And so by this point, she's told the world what she wants. By releasing Golden, everyone can listen to it, but she's not able to perform Golden for everybody because her patterns are overwhelming her. And so she seeks to understand her darkness and animus in the form of Genu. And animus is a masculine shadow that feminine characters and people have within themselves that represent that masculine part of them that oftentimes needs to be healed to be able to be whole.
Mm-hmm.
So she seeks to understand, and he shares not all, but some of his tragic backstory over the course of their meetings. And at the same time, she is planning with the girls to do Takedown.
Mm-hmm.
So they start to create this Takedown song, this diss track, which is leaning into sort of like their darker natures, their hate, their desire to hurt the demons.
Yeah. We're going to destroy them. We're going to, that's what we do. We kill demons.
And in so many ways, like the lyrics themselves talk about how filthy and disgusting and how the demons don't have any feelings when as we understand Genu more and the demons themselves, we know that they have too much feeling.
Yes.
they feel too much.
Yes.
That is what allows the demon king to control all of them, is that they have leaned too much into the self-hate and they haven't been able to accept the darkness within themselves and forgive themselves for things that have happened in the past, i.e. redemption.
Right. So it's also interesting because we talk a lot about, when we talk about archetypes, we talk about how the shadow archetypes typically have an aggressive and why am I forgetting the other word?
Passive.
Passive, thank you.
Yeah.
So an aggressive and a passive type typically. So, just off the top of my head, an example would be like the queen archetype has the aggressive, which is a sorceress, and the passive, which is a snow queen. So one is going to be out there sort of attacking and taking aggressive action. And the snow queen is typically going to retreat and sort of be protective. And what's so interesting about Takedown versus Golden is that they actually represent both of these things. Golden is like the Snow Queen. It is the passive. It is the, I'm going to retreat and protect this thing, which I think is good, and kind of ignore the bad out there. I'm just going to pretend like it doesn't exist and just sort of deny it. And then you have the, Takedown, which is the aggressive, and it's the attacking. It's I'm going to destroy you. And so they are different reactions to these negative aspects. And so I think that's really fascinating, the way they try to solve their problem, or Rumi at least tries to solve her problem different ways as represented by these songs. And it isn't until she understands the need to integrate and to embrace this darkness that she comes in with the final song.
Yeah. But we do get the indication of what the answer is for her with the song Free that they have while they're meeting. Also, the fact that he accepts the bracelet from her means that mythically they are married.
Yep. It's like a wedding ring, guys.
Yeah, it's like a wedding ring. And of course, it is like the knot symbol.
Things about the knot. So Medup is the Korean decorative knots, and they appear several places in the movie. So the bracelet, of course, has them. But also the Huntrix symbol, the Huntrix logo, with the H in the middle, is also one of these knots. And that's called a norige. And that's a specific knot, which there's a couple different versions, but it might be about protection or stability or purity. And that's something also that is symbolized here. So the idea being that any knot is about tying together. And so having the bracelet specifically and having it pass between them, she gives it to him, he takes it from her, is that they're being tied together.
And it represents a heart song or a soul song.
Yes.
Because it's actually brought up again by Derpy, and it is the quickest little friggin' moment.
It's so short, but it's so important.
Just before he goes off to perform Idol, he's speaking with the Demon King, and the Demon King is like, "Are you ready to get everything you've ever wanted?" And Derpy walks up with the bracelet in his mouth and bumps his hand with his like little head with the
Yes.
bracelet in his mouth. And then we see him later at the end of the song as he's about to die and
Yep.
sacrifice himself for her. He's wearing the bracelet. So
Yep.
this is where like they're like in union in multiple ways, even in these like brief 2-second moments that we can only see briefly. But this all leads into Free, which is her understanding that like you're dark, but maybe I got dark. Maybe you're not so bad. Maybe I'm not so bad. And her accepting her own darkness is the start of that song.
Yeah.
I love Free as a song.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love it.
I tried to hide, but something broke. I tried to sing, couldn't hit the note. The words keep catching in my throat. I tried to smile, was suffocating through. But here with you, I can finally breathe. You say you're no good, but you're good with me. I've been hoping to change. Now I know we can change. But I won't if you're not by my side.
Ugh, it's so good. And then all of his lines are amazing,
All
too.
of his lines are amazing.
So
like, I don't want to go
good.
into it. Everyone can look at the lyrics.
But it's so, like, the lyrics are amazing. It's so good, and it works so well in the scene. They also have a line where they say, let the past be the past till it's weightless. And of course, you know, coming from Raylo fandom, that sounds a lot like let the past die to me. And I think that this is important, right? Because it's like that is part of what she ultimately has to learn is that she has to let the past go so she can build something new. And that's part of what this song too, Free, is also about, is about like, hey, we can build something together. And it's really beautiful. I love them lifting into the air and flying. So like you were talking before about how them being on the roofs was them being, and they ascend throughout the song. Like they start down low, you know, they're down like a set of stairs kind of, you know, in a dark area. And then they sort of walk slowly up the stairs and he kind of comes out of the trees, almost like out of a forest in a way. And they walk along the roof and then they sort of launch into the air.
And it's like a dreamlike space, which is quite common in motifs where they're soulmates.
Right. And so this is where I want to get into one of the specific, you know, myths that is at play here, which is Herd Boy and Weaver Girl, which we've talked about before. Go listen again to the Crash Landing on You episodes because we go into this. But Herd Boy and Weaver is a common folktale throughout all of Asia. There's something like 7 different versions at least that we know of, and probably many more that aren't recorded in English. So I am completely certain that there are, you know, many, many, many versions of this. But in a Korean version, you have these lovers who are a sort of lowly herd boy and then sort of the celestial weaver girl. And she has to, you know, weave fates and so on. And they fall in love, but then eventually they are separated and they are allowed to come together only one day a year. And in order to make that possible, the magpies get together and fly and form a bridge across the Milky Way so that the lovers can meet. And so given that there's a magpie in this story, and we've already talked about kind of bridge threshold symbolism, you know, they're lifting into the sky. They are sort of, you know, I think tragic's the wrong word, but they are lovers that don't ultimately, they're not together at the end. And so I think that it's they're
separated. Yeah.
They're separated. Yeah. They're separated lovers. That's the better way to put it.
Yeah.
So they're separated lovers. And so I think that it's like, again, it's not, do I think it's a deliberate retelling? No. But do I think that influence, that cultural folklore influence is there? Yes, definitely. And so anyway, so it's really beautiful. And I love that they have a moment of being the celestial lovers. I thought that was beautiful.
It was beautiful. And
it's such a good scene.
It is. And it sort of represents the change in Rumi. This is an alchemical union that happens. I think that there's 2, because this moment is her kind of realizing that she needs to no longer chase the dark path, because she goes back to the girls and she says, we cannot do Takedown. We need, for the Idol Awards.
Yep.
We need to do Golden. That is our song. That is what represents us. They even say it like as part of like the like promo. This is what represents us, you know, in all the interviews. It's more true to themselves. It doesn't actually fully tell the story. That's part of the discovery of what the story is about. But it does say things more from a perspective that is truthful. And so they go back and they plan to do Golden at the Idol Awards, but the Saja boys and Jinu have been pulled back down by the Demon King, and they have this other plan. And so Takedown, so they start to perform Golden. It's going really well. They start to see everything going the way that they thought their dreams would happen, especially Rumi. And then it switches and it turns to Takedown. And this moment, from a heroine's journey perspective, is called Spiritual Aridity and Death. And it is, she is killed symbolically by her friends. In her mind, right? Because she thinks that they're her friends that are doing this. And in fact, how the world reacts is like she has died on stage.
Well, they talk about like, oh, we saw the Huntrix break up on stage. And keep in mind, again, it's already been explicitly told to us by that doctor character that like the three of them together are her. She is them. She is all three of them. She is the tri-goddess. And so being rejected, as far as she knows, by the other two parts of herself, she is dead. Yeah. She's been killed.
And so Golden represented this false boon of success, that she had regained her voice and found her wholeness in herself through Jinu. And so what happens after that is pretty quick, because her friends leave to like go and chase the Saja boys. And she immediately goes and confronts the dark goddess in her mind, or her dark mother, when she herself is actually now the dark goddess. She has more power. She is scary, and she has the ability to kill. Basically, that is the power that you learn when you visit the dark goddess. And she visits Selene.
Yeah.
And this is a part of the journey of the heroine's journey where you have an urgent need to reconnect with the feminine once you have been faced with the darkness within yourself. And she, like, I feel so much for the character. They did such a good job with the voice acting and the animation. Like, who doesn't, as a small child, just want to be accepted for all of their parts?
Yeah. Why couldn't you love all of me? Like, it's such a heartbreaking scene. And you get it too, because like there is no resolution with Selene, not in this movie. Like, she, as far as we know, she is stuck on this idea that you have to hide it, you have to cover up, you have to deny it. And Rumi simply refuses. And the reason being, she has tried that. She tried Celine's way. Right? If you want to talk about those generational patterns, so to speak, she followed them. She did what she was told to do, was supposed to do. And it did not work. It resulted in this psychic death. And so she is now demanding to be accepted for who she is, all of her, light and dark.
Exactly. And this is something that, like, when you and I consume media and we see a feminine character go through sort of this moment of realization, we want to see her even briefly go dark and use those powers, because there is something really important to the feminine psyche, that you understand that you have always represented both life and death. And that's why that moment is so incredibly satisfying, that she confronts her dark mother in her true form, in all that she is, and says, why couldn't you love me, all of me?
Yep. Yeah.
I loved it.
It's so good. It's so good. There's just so many beautiful things that work about it. And to go back to, how this movie takes inspiration from multiple places. I also thought that the scenes with Celine, and especially some of the flashbacks with Celine, like the one of them when she's a child, and she's kind of fixing her hair, that was very similar to me to Mother Gothel and Rapunzel in Tangled. Remember when she's like, she's sitting there, she's singing the song, and she's brushing her hair and telling her she can't ever go outside and everything. And so here it's the same thing. Celine's sitting there braiding her hair, telling her keep those patterns covered up, and so it's like, and she was sitting there singing the song. And so it's very similar. And so I felt, just very much of that, Celine had kept Rumi as a maiden in a tower in many ways by forcing her to hide herself. And this is her stepping out of the tower and saying, no, this is who I am and I deserve better.
And if we're talking about archetypes, she constantly, although she was in a hero phase, absolutely on her own, independent and doing what she needed to do, still being guided by Celine, she she was a coward because she couldn't even face her friends. She couldn't even be truthful about who she was and what she wanted to be accepted for her whole self.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's really remarkable, I think, all of the overlap. And so it's really beautiful. Also, I want to mention that so Celine is a something of a threshold guardian as well, because she's always trying to stop or prevent Rumi from sort of stepping outside of the boundaries that she set for her. And so it's interesting that this conversation happens at this sort of sacred tree with the silk hangings and everything, because there's it's a little obscure sometimes, I think, the cultural background of this, and there's several different ideas of where this custom originated, but generally it seems to be accepted that these are sort of village guardians in a way, that it was a sacred tree that, shamanistic rituals would protect the village. And so it was like a gateway almost. So I like the idea that it was like, this is the home, this is the tower.
Yeah.
And we're leaving the tower.
Yeah. And that she was also like caught up in the memory of like what her mother represented to Celine and everything like that. And she has to break free from parental expectations. And I wonder if at least one of the writers has read the same books as us, because the lyrics specifically in Golden point to her wanting to become the queen that she is meant to be.
Yes. And so, absolutely.
Of course, the archetypes, they go maiden, hero, queen, king, crone, mage. And they represent the different phases of life. Queen is that you want to build a family and you want to be fully connected with that family. And symbolically, that would be that she has come and become truthful with her co-bandmates and demon hunters. And so she wants to be a queen. She wants to be a full family with them. And I think they all want that. They all want to be able to be fully truthful. All right. Let's move on to Idol.
Oh my gosh. Like this is one of those, like, why am I attracted to animated characters? And yet. So
the entire thing is beautiful.
It's like, so well done.
It is beautiful. I would kill to be in that concert. That would be amazing.
Give it to me.
The song itself, you don't hear Latin every day in songs. Guess what it says?
Yeah.
So it says, pray for me now, very, very quickly. And then there's a word or a couple of words behind at the same time. Pray for me now, pray for me now, pray for me now. Right at the beginning, but it's like in the like altered auto-tuned voice.
Yeah.
And it says, Dies eri illa vos solve in flava, maledictus eros in flammas aeternum, which is, the day of wrath or judgment will dissolve you into ash, cursed master into eternal flames.
Oh my God, it's so great.
If you understood Latin, spoiler alert. about what was going to happen at the end of the song. They were going to go and feed you to their cursed master.
Love it.
Literally
So
the flame mouth. Good old flame mouth.
gotta love him.
I love this song so much.
It's like such a good song. Everything about it is so good. Like all the lyrics. I just, I'm the only one who'll love your sins.
Mm-hmm.
Or what's the thing about the voice that gets hear the way my voice gets underneath your skin.
Yeah.
God, it's so good. It's so good. So anyway, it's just really amazing. And the imagery is fantastic. And, having them be in their Saja costume and, they've got their full demon patterns and the eyes and the claws and the whole thing. They look amazing.
They're not hiding any longer and they're they look like they're true forms from the underworld. And you still love me in my darkness. Doesn't that feel good? Doesn't that feel good to still love this darkness? It is seductive to love the darkness. It absolutely is. And in so many ways, like that's what we need, is to empathize with the darkness so that then we can love it in ourselves. But the entire point is to get people to a point where they are getting what they think they want so that they can be stolen from or killed, right? It is it's so good.
It's so well done. I really, really love this sequence. It's just and because it's so good, it makes her entrance and song hit that much harder.
Yeah, because we're not expecting her to show up and in some ways be, I would say, humble.
Yeah, she's kind of destroyed almost.
She is destroyed. And again, the lyrics play into this moment with this is what it sounds like. She's even like taunted by the darkness, by the Demon King, saying like you show up like this, like, and she's like, yeah, I am broken, but you know what? Nothing but the truth now, nothing but the proof of what I am, the worst parts, what I came from, patterns I'm ashamed of. The thing I don't understand, I tried to fix it. I tried to fight it. My head was twisted, my heart divided, my lies all colluded. I don't know why I didn't trust you to be by my side. And then I broke into a million pieces and I can't go back, but now I see all the beauty in the broken glass. The scars are part of me, darkness and harmony. Oh my gosh.
It's so good. It's so good. I should have let the light meet the jagged edges instead. Like, I was definitely having, like, Kitsugi memories there. I was like, remember that whole conversation about how we repair what's broken while leaving the cracks visible and stuff like that. So like that's so much,
and you become beautiful with the scars,
right?
And beyond that, and I
want to mention that about her patterns. They're when she's hiding her demon nature, they are purple like bruises. When she accepts them, and accepts herself, they turn white like scars. Yep.
And also they glow in this like sort of shimmering, like magical girl way. Yeah. And so that's what you see when you are able to eat your shadow. When you eat your shadow, they talk about this. Robert Bly talks about it. He was a poet, so he described things in beautiful ways. But he said when you eat your shadow, you're able to actually play with it, and it becomes this exceptional energy that you can use instead of fighting your shadow. And so she glows with new energy because she has eaten her shadow. She understands who she is.
And it makes her more powerful. It makes all of them more powerful. All of a sudden, like there's multiple moments in this final sequence where they sort of power up as they gain new knowledge.
Yeah, and it is very acceptance. Magical girl, and I'm
very
obsessed.
Magical girl. I love it. Well, and then we go back to the whole thing about the three of them being one. They start at separate points on like a triangle,
and all come together toward
the center. They hug, right? It's like
embrace means that they are one.
Yes, exactly. So it's so beautifully done. I know it's so good.
So
it's
good.
Like and this is what I want everyone to understand. Like we'll get to it in a minute. We'll talk about Gino, but I want everyone to understand that this moment of Huntrix, the three girls coming together at the end, that is the integration. That is Rumi becoming whole, because this refusal to accept herself was separating her from these other aspects of herself. She could not be whole because of this denial and so she has healed the whole.
And you can't save anyone else, and you can't do anything else for anyone else until you can take care of your own business.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just think it's really important to understand that it's this is actually the climax of the film.
This moment
is the three of them coming together. That's really critical. It
does go past that, and of course follows still the heroine's journey in that she is able to heal the wounded masculine by accepting the parts of herself he very much is inspired by her. He protects her. Jinoo protects her in that key moment against this shadow flame blast from the Demon King. As the girls fight the hordes of demons and also the rest of the Saja boys. But Rumi is protected by the love that Jinoo has for her, and his soul becomes her most powerful weapon to be able to destroy the Demon King.
Yeah. And again, just as we've said throughout, it's in the text. He says, "You gave me back my soul, and now I give it to you." And then you see the glowing soul literally go into her sword. And so this is really important, is that she did heal him and she did integrate him. And it's important to understand that, like, they're being pretty explicit about the fact that he is her animus. He is her masculine. He is the masculine part of her. And so him becoming part of her is her becoming whole.
And becoming a more powerful weapon represents her taking in the masculine, the violence, and or the aggression, all of that.
Yeah.
Being a protector, like all of those very like things that we associate with masculinity, becomes part of her, and now it is her weapon.
Yeah.
So he's always with her. Becoming the sword means he'll always protect her.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's important because there are all sorts of different types of stories out there. And I do want to get into like what this all means long term, but the story ends in a happy way. We know that they end up being able to go for the spa day in the bathhouse, and they all
which
love
they've been
it.
wanting to do this whole time.
And they heal the Hanmoon in I would say the traditional way, which was that the fighting and the singing, which kind of represents the two sides of Rumi, right? The hunter part, which is violence, and the song part, which is creation, is able to actually inspire all the fans and heal the world.
Right. And it's critical to understand that, like, so one of the things we kind of skipped over a little bit is what she says to Celine, when Celine disappoints her and is like, "Oh, we've got to save the Hanmoon." And she's like, "Well, if this is what it is, then I'm glad to see it destroyed." And then when Klima taunts her and is like, "Oh, the Hanmoon is gone," and she's like, "It is, so we can build a new one." So it's important to understand that, like, they didn't repair it; they built something new.
And we don't know what that is yet.
No, we don't know. We don't have additional detail. But what we know is that it's built on truth. It's built on honesty. It's theirs. They built it together with their fans. And that's important too, to go back to the whole Weaver Girl story. Like the Hanmoon is very much woven by, by their voices and by the relationship they have with their fans. And so this is a community together wove this new sort of, this new garment of protection, if you will. And so while not, like, you can argue there's still plenty of story to tell, this story has resolved.
And they have brought the truth of what she learned in the underworld
Right.
which is to love yourself through the song. This is what it sounds like. And them all singing it together as one united group, 3 parts in harmony. It's so textual. The lyrics are so textual, telling us exactly what it is, both symbolically, metaphorically, but also just saying exactly what's going on.
Yeah,
3 parts in harmony. This is what it sounds like. So disparate pieces that can now work together and that they make themselves stronger through each other. And the elixir in mythic stories is the idea that you can bring back the message or the knowledge or the special thing that you found when you went on your dark journey and give it to others, their fans, the glowing light we see. And that makes them able to learn and heal the community. So the message itself has been given to the community, and that's what heals the Hanmoon.
Yeah.
It is such a mythic concept in perfection.
It's so good. It's so good. They did such an amazing job. And then they emphasize it further by having them, interact with these 3 young fans at the end, who, of course, are reflections of themselves. And it indicates sort of the elixir being passed on. My kids even asked, they're like, oh, are those girls going to be the new hunters? And I was like, I don't know. But I just thought that was, so interesting that my kids picked up on that. But it's amazing. But then I want to mention, so from them kind of, again, chatting with these young fans, the camera pans, you see kind of the image of them. And there's a sign that says comeback.
Yep.
Right? Because it's their comeback. And then sitting on top of that sign are Derpy and Sussy, our tiger and magpie, which, as we know, they not only represent genus specifically, but as sort of that link to the demon world or the underworld. And so that is where we get that hint that if
they're spiritual guides that could go anywhere they want to go.
If the story were to be continued, there is room.
Yeah, there is absolutely room. And from a mythic motif perspective, I think it's fair to compare this to A New Hope, to Star Wars, in that it does everything it needs to do in the first movie. You didn't actually need to make more. But from a motif epic perspective, or a saga, I'll use the word, you could tell another part or another 2 parts, and it would align with mythic storytelling. And there's a lot to dig into. Specifically, both Missy and I are really big fans of lost husband stories. So there's this great Instagram, TikTok video of Radford Seacrest, who is the husband of Maggie Kang, the director. Radford Seacrest, of course, did story art for the story, and also is the creator of Kippo and the Wonder Beasts. He was like, "So, Maggie, is Gino gonna come back?"
And she sort of shifty eyes, and then she slinks out of frame.
So they are very aware of what the story is next.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I have no doubt if Netflix gives them money, if Sony Animation gives them money, they know exactly what to write, which means they've read the same books as us, or at least have enough of an intuitive understanding of psychology and their own creative desires to know what happens next.
Absolutely. So I think all of that to say that while I can understand some frustration with how this ended, particularly if you're projecting your own disappointments that have happened in other media onto this, and I totally appreciate that. At the same time, I do think it's important to understand that this story, as it stands now, is a complete story with room to do all the things I think that we would love to see. And so, given that it has been doing very well. It's, a big hit.
They released a ton of merch.
That there's merch. There's like I think
soundtrack's
the music's
doing amazing.
Yeah, the music's been top on Spotify. The movie's been top on Netflix. Like it's been doing amazing. It's doing so well. I think that we stand a fairly good chance of getting a second installment. And I think that most of these things that we are hoping to see, and which the creators are fairly clear on, that's both what the fans want and also the obvious direction for the story, I think we'll get it. So I am not super concerned myself. But then that also brings us to the fan reaction is part of that, because all the things that you want to see, those can happen in fan fiction and fan art and all the things. And so I've already seen quite a bit of fan art that pretty much gives me exactly that. I know somebody was tracking probably Slimo again, was tracking the AO3, and it was like within the first day it was like 100 Reginu fics, and now it's like over 400 Reginu fics.
Let's go.
So
might have to go check that out. I finally have some time. Let's go.
I know, right?
And I also want to say, like this is really important to understand. If you're dealing with a saga story like this, not just a one-off, the first story is always about healing the self. From a mythological lens, you cannot save others if you cannot save yourself, right? The second story is usually about saving the other, which is like your mirror self, your dark mother, your animus, the thing that you need to save because it is part of you and that your life is better when they're okay. The other. And then that other usually is partnered with you to save the world.
Right.
And so that's where I would say some of the critiques have been like, well, why haven't we saved Genu? Why haven't we saved all of the demons? Why haven't we saved all of the corrupted people? Well, there's time if there's more story, and it is actually the tale type to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like they're 100% on track to do that. If things work out, it would be, and I know that's a big if, and a lot of people are, tired, but it's just like, it's and all of the groundwork has been laid. And so like, for instance, we already know there's an indication, well, if Genu is just a victim and if he can be redeemed, then they all can. We know that, right? And we know that there's still room to explore what's up with Rumi's parents. Apparently she has a demon father, and we don't know anything.
Oh my gosh, that's part of the other.
Absolutely.
That is part of the next story. The other masculine.
Exactly.
And Genu would be part of that other masculine.
Totally.
Yeah.
So there's so much room to tell these stories. And so I'm just so pleased that we got this story and that all of the mythic motifs were so clear. I mean, again, I want to bring back, to my whole family, not even just my kids. So I've seen this 3 times since it came out. My daughter has watched it 5 times. She's sort of taken it upon herself to become like the evangelist for K-pop demon hunters. And so
Excellent.
she went over to a friend. I know. She went over to a friend's house for a play date yesterday, and I picked her up and I was like, "What'd you do?" And she was like, "We watched K-pop demon hunters," because she hadn't seen it yet and I needed her to see it. I was like, "Okay." And then this morning I go to watch it. So my third watch was this morning, and I sit down and my kids come running in and they sit with me and we're watching. And all like after the first scene, I think my husband comes walking in and he's like, "You started without me?" It's like, so like my whole family has just been loving this. We've been playing the soundtrack all week. I mean, we're down. And so like, we love it. But I did, just because I was curious, how do children without all of this baggage about media, how do they feel about this? So I asked them, how do you feel about Genu's ending and and like just in general? And They have slightly different opinions, but overall, they're both really happy with it. They're really satisfied with it. They seem to have a pretty clear understanding that, neither of them said Genu died. Both of them were like, oh, he's just, in her sword now. Like they were kind of like, it was no big deal to them. Yeah, it didn't bother them. And they understood that the story was mostly about the three girls. And, the most I got was my son, who is an absolutely hopeless romantic, said he was very disappointed that they did not kiss. So he was
fair.
Like, they should have kissed. And I was like, I'll give you that.
But they're married.
I get it. Yeah. Well, and he said that. He's like, in the next movie, they should get married. And I was like, you are correct.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
My youngest loved it. He's 13. And my husband loved it too. And I gotta say, like, I put on the soundtrack and I was playing it over and over again.
Yeah,
while
constantly.
I was making dinner, because it's not incredibly long, because the songs themselves are pretty short, and nobody got sick after 5 times playing through the whole soundtrack.
Yeah.
So and I do want to talk about this a little bit from a meta perspective, because just to wrap up our whole conversation into a nice little bow, what happens in the movie is what is happening in real life for us. We saw an alchemical union. This is a terminology for what happens with the tri-goddess, the 3 Huntrix group coming together, as well as her connecting with Genu, her picking up all of the pieces of her soul and herself that she has separated and been separated from through her own shame and shame given to her, inherited shame by being born from a demon. We saw this happen on screen, and immediately we experience a bit of that. We took that elixir. Our souls were filled with joy, just like the fans in the audience. And all of a sudden, you hear these artists talking about how they had all of this creative energy. And originally, when coming up with the story, Maggie said she had this energy from watching these K-pop artists on screen, giving her this energy to create a story. Art creates more art through this apotheosis, through this interconnectedness that we experience psychologically through human creation. And more art creates more art. More human art creates more human art.
And so many people have jumped in and wanted to watch it because they've been seeing fan art, and they've been just seeing the excitement.
The songs, even,
or
like
the songs, the
songs, and then that art itself. So, like, communicating your human experiences through art will allow others to be given that creative energy, and it multiplies. And that is beautiful. And that is why I love talking about stories, and why this K-pop Demon Hunters is exceptional and hits us on a level that we haven't seen in a really long time.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've reacted to something like this. And especially, we talked about this, before we started recording. We were talking about how, it's been rough out there. Yeah. Right? Like, no matter who you are, it's been joy. It's been rough out there. And so, given everything that's going on, it's been so wonderful to have this, because everything sucks, but I can put on one of these songs and just be filled with joy for a few minutes. Or I can, to break up some of my doom scrolling, I can see some gorgeous art that people have created, or I can see that adorable derby tiger everywhere, all over the place. And this all makes me so happy, and it does give me energy, and it does get me excited, and I love seeing other people excited. Like, this is the best of fandom, really. It is.
It really is.
So I'm loving it.
And I hope that we helped you understand why this movie worked for you, if you're listening to this. And I just want to leave you with one little piece, which is that Maggie Kang is married to Radford Seacrest. And this movie has been in production and design for so long, over 10 years, that they had an entire new person. They had a daughter, and they named her Rumi. And she is the voice of young Rumi in the movie. And so their union produced this child, both the movie and also the daughter. And that is what this is about. This is giving the gift to the next generation. And it's magical when art works like this.
Love it.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. This is so much fun, Missy. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Yes, thank you. This was great. We don't get to do this as often as I would like to just get so excited and gush and to have so much meaty mythic stuff to sink our teeth into. So it's
absolutely
really nice.
And telling it on multiple levels, the text, the songs, the symbolism, it went hard.
It went hard.
And so there was a lot to dig into. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Missy, where can people find you if they're looking for you online?
Yes, please look for me on Tumblr, where I am All Girls Are Princesses.
You can find me on Blue Sky at Marisi Gould, as well as on Tumblr at WT Force Media, I think. I'm out there, but find Missy and I'm sure you'll find me.
Yep. No worries.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Take care and cheers.